Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports. So excited for this video as we're going to discuss some of the recent news and rumors and speculation about a potential two-day NBA draft event focused on probably bringing more viewers to their TV screens by stretching out the NBA draft into a two-day event instead of just the typical one-day event that we've seen for a very long time in the NBA. We're going to discuss some of the pros and cons of that. Let's get into it here pretty quickly. But before we do that, I want to urge you guys to leave a like on today's video, especially if you enjoy all the different draft content we do here and all the kind of creative, fun videos. We have trade guides coming out, a lot of fun stuff. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future uploads. Hit that notification bell. It sends you a notification saying, hey, look, Utility Sports uploaded a video. That way you don't miss out on anything that you want to click on. And then one other thing that I really would love to see you guys do is to use some of the links in our description. I typically don't shout those out as much as I probably should, but down there you'll see a Discord link. Really, that's the most important one I want you guys to join. We have a fantastic, awesome community. Shout out to some of our moderators, Zach, we've got Azrael PC, we've got Colin, we've got Texas Sports, of course. He's a legend in there. There's a lot in that Discord that you guys can participate in. We have daily events and a lot of fun games and just really a lot of great camaraderie in there. So make sure to join that. Go follow on Twitter. That's pretty important as well. Go give our TikToks and Instagrams a follow. I don't use those as much. So really the emphasis here is on the Discord and that Twitter. But let's jump into it, guys. I don't want to waste any of your time. So here is our video preview. What are we discussing in today's video? Well, we're going to first look at the news. What do we know about a potential two-day NBA draft event? What would that look like? We're going to discuss all of that in this video, and then we're going to kind of dive into some of the pros of what a two-day draft event would look like in comparison to the typical one-day draft event that we already know and love. We'll also look at the cons of a two-day draft event. Now, there's not a ton of them, to be honest, but we're going to look at those and kind of evaluate how important some of those cons are, because maybe even with a lesser number of cons than there are pros, maybe those cons are really important. So we're going to break that down in this video as well, and then we'll conclude with my overall take. What do I kind of want to see happen? Do I think it's going to happen? And all of that. We're going to discuss everything in this video you need to know about the potential change for the NBA. But let's get into that news here. You see different information sources here, NBC Sports, Bleacher Report. Wojnarowski was the initial one to kind of break some of the news. I believe him and Shams Charania were both in on kind of sharing some of the details that the NBA is considering extending their draft to 2 days. And the entire point of that is to kind of mirror what the NFL does. The NFL has a 3-day NFL draft event, and of course, the reason for that is they have 7 rounds. It's impossible to fit all of that into one day. But they have the first round in day 1. They've got rounds 2 and 3 on day 2. And then day 3 is kind of a long-winded rounds 4 through 7. And honestly, comparing that to the NBA draft, it almost feels like rounds 1 and 2 in the NBA draft feel a little bit like rounds 4 through 7 in the NFL draft. And part of that comes down to the analysis. The analysis just isn't that good in the second round. The analysts don't have a lot of time to focus on the picks, and then when they do focus on the picks, it seems like they either don't know that much about them or they don't have a lot of optimism in those guys fitting well in the NBA. So I think that stretching it out, giving a little bit more time for the analysts and giving a little bit more time in general is not a terrible idea. And I think this is good news for the NBA. Just quite frankly, I think at least considering an extension, getting teams' input on this, I think is a smart decision. Whether or not it actually comes to fruition or not, that's a different story. We're going to talk about those pros and cons here in a second. But I think one thing Adam Silver has done well is he hasn't sat on his hands. Now, not everything he's done has come with my applause. I'm not the biggest Adam Silver fan, to be honest with you, but I think he has done some really good things. The play-in has been a success. A lot of viewership, making a lot of money for the NBA. I think another big success has been the in-season tournament through the first year of its kind of existence. I feel like it was a big success. A lot of viewership. And now for someone like me and you, the diehard NBA fans, you're going to watch those regular season games anyway. But I do just think looking at the numbers, looking at the viewership stuff, not necessarily this year, but I think there's going to be a building and kind of big growth over time that we see from the in-season tournament. And I think because of that, the fan interest is going to be increased early in the season. And I think this is another example where looking at the TV numbers, extending the draft is something that does ultimately make some sense. So when we jump into some of those pros, as you look into an old Milwaukee Bucks war room here, first of all, extending the draft to 2 days makes more money. And I don't really care about this, but the NBA definitely does. And that is Adam Silver's job. As the commissioner, you are essentially an employee of all 30 NBA team owners. And when it comes down to it, the CBA and everything you can do, BRI, basketball revenue, all that income, it's super important that they keep making more and more money. That's how the valuation of teams continues to go up. That's how someone like Mark Cuban is able to sell the team for as much as he just did, because it continues to grow. And people are very kind of hopeful that they're going to be able to keep making more and more and more money by being a part of the NBA. And that is Adam Silver's job. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of, we should do this because it's going to make us more money, at the end of the day, I don't really care about that. I just care about good analysis, good basketball. At the end of the day, this is the way that the league's going to operate, and it does actually make sense for them in that standpoint. Another pro for them, it promotes more analysis time for picks, and it's way easier to follow the news, specifically in the second round. What I want to really point out here is the round 1 of the NFL draft is beautiful. I'm not even that big of an NFL fan. I do follow it. Of course, the NFL draft's always fun. I'm a New York Jets fan, so you guys know that I live for the draft because the games on Sundays are never pretty. So the NFL draft's a big deal. And round 1 is such a beautiful event because there's 10 minutes per pick. The analysts have great insight on all the players, at least to me it seems that way. I don't know nearly as much about football as I do about basketball, so maybe I'm blinded a little bit there, kind of like a blind squirrel. Every once in a while I'm right about football, but I'm, not really the best there. In basketball, I feel a lot more comfortable, obviously, with my analysis, which is partially why I'm recorded on the NBA so much, because I love it. But at the end of the day, too, you're looking at giving more time for analysts to not only discuss what a team potentially needs, but you're also giving them time to break down a recent pick. So let's say pick number 1, a team takes the first overall pick. You have 5, 6, 7 minutes to break down that player, and then you also still have an additional 3 minutes to discuss the next team and what could they theoretically need, what could they look at, and it gives you more time to discuss all of the teams that are participating in that year's draft. Whereas right now, with only about a 5-minute timer, you really get 2-3 minutes to break down a pick, and then you have a minute or two to discuss, hey, this is what this team needs, and it just feels rushed. It feels really quick. For me, every single first round mock draft I do on the channel is over an hour and 15 minutes long. It's because I love talking about the draft prospects, and I'm just one person. That's not an entire set and crew of analysts up there breaking down these draft prospects and talking about fit and reacting to live picks. That's the one thing too. When I'm going through mocks, I kind of give rationale. I'm never reacting really because it's my own mock draft. So I think just having more analysis time would make the draft event a lot better. And in the second round specifically, when there's all of these crazy trades and Shams is trying to break the news and this pick's getting sent where, and it always takes 2 or 3 days to figure out what is going on here. With more time, the TV broadcast is going to be able to relay more information to the viewer. And listen, the diehards, they end up figuring out what happened. But some of the casual fans, they're not really wondering what happened with pick 47 in the draft. Where did it get traded to? For me, that's a big deal. I care about it a ton, but not for everybody. So I think that's one of the pros here is if you have more time, you're going to be able to get better, clear, concise news out to the general population, which I think is really good. It also gives more time during picks for the GMs to actually evaluate their boards, evaluate who has gone off the board so far, who's been drafted, who hasn't, and their needs. And I think this is honestly the most important pro on the entire list. I don't care about the money, although the league definitely does. The analysis time is cool. It's fun hearing your team get talked about on national TV. That's an awesome thing, and I know a lot of fans do enjoy that. But really, this third point is the most important one because when things go haywire and maybe you have your draft planned out and teams do a ton of mock drafts, they look at their board and they say, okay, we think this guy's going here, and then they kind of map out what their draft could look like, who's going to go at what spot so they can decide whether they should trade up or not. With 5 minutes per pick, it's hard to keep track of, hey, who's going where? Did this guy go off the board? Did he not? And it doesn't give you as much time to work the phones either because, well, the picks are kind of flying in. You have really 2-3 minutes to figure out, okay, well, this guy ended up sliding further than we expected. Let's try and trade up and get him. Well, you don't really have time for that because of the way that the draft is currently set up. So I think giving a little bit more time gives teams a little bit more optionality, more time to evaluate their own boards, more time to evaluate what's going on in the draft, and it just creates a better product, because we all know how important the NBA draft is. Giving GMs a little bit more time, a little bit more comfort with the draft by giving them an extended period to make decisions, I think is really good. Even though teams should have all their homework done already, to be honest, by the time the draft gets there, you never know what's going to happen in a live moment, and I think giving a little bit more grace in that regard would be good for the NBA. You're also going to get more draft night trades because of that. I kind of touched on that in the last point, but you're also going to see vets traded more often. Teams that are trying to accomplish things for free agency, if that means dumping a contract with a pick. We saw that last year in the draft with the Sacramento Kings trading pick number 24 to the Dallas Mavericks with Richaun Holmes. Really clever move for the Mavericks to get Max Prosper, and it was actually a really clever move by the Kings as well to open up money to renegotiate and extend Domantas Sabonis to make sure they didn't lose him in free agency. It's just really good in general for everyone involved to have more time. And it also is fun for the viewers, because the more draft night trades, the better. Everyone wants to be glued to their TV saying, oh my gosh, my team just made a trade. Where's that pick going? Or what guy are we trading up for? Or who did we send out the door? And it just creates a little bit more buzz around the draft. The draft's already one of the best days of the entire year. It's honestly my favorite day of the year. My birthday is in the end of June, and there's been plenty of times where the draft literally coincides with my birthday, and I'm telling you, that's my favorite day ever, because it's literally just a great day for me. I get to celebrate my birthday, be with loved ones and friends and everything, but then I get to sit back and enjoy the NBA draft, which is just so darn enjoyable. And then my fifth bullet point here, and this is a fun one, you're going to get day 2 trade-ups. And what do I mean by that? If the draft is separated into 2 days, the final pick of the first round will be pick number 30, which means it would be the final pick of the first day of the draft, likely. Because of that, teams might say, wow, this guy fell to the second round. I think a great example of that in the 2023 NBA draft would have been Leonard Miller, who ended up getting drafted 33rd overall by the Minnesota Timberwolves, who traded up for him. But with a full day in there, it gives whoever owns pick 31 kind of an opportunity to shop that selection. And if teams are like, wow, I can't believe Leonard Miller fell to the second round, there's going to be a wider variety of teams looking to trade up to 31. And maybe there's a couple guys that fall into the second round teams weren't projecting to make it there. So maybe some teams are calling and saying, hey, can we get pick 32? What does it take to get pick 33? Very similar to the NFL draft, where we've seen teams trade up to number 33 to get the guy that they want in the second round, and they know that he's going to be available for them because they have a whole day to sleep on it and say, yeah, that's our guy. They can think about it. They have plenty of time. And I think because of that, we could see something similar in the NBA, where guys at pick 31, that becomes a pretty valuable pick, because everyone wants to move up to get the one guy that they really like in the second round. I think it just creates a little bit more buzz for round 2, which is definitely needed, because when we move into the cons here, I think they're pretty straightforward what to kind of expect in the cons list. First of all, there's presumed lesser interest from fans in round 2. And of course, for diehards like you and me, you know, we eat, sleep, and breathe basketball. We know that round 2 can produce some really great talents, and we're going to discuss that in a second here, but I'm telling you, the casual fan doesn't think that way. In fact, most casual fans say the second round's an entire waste, and I think statistically that's not true at all. There's been plenty of really good second round picks. I think one of my favorite in recent examples is Nick Claxton for the Brooklyn Nets, someone who, yes, it took him a couple years to develop and really come into his own in the NBA, but he's turned into a really good starting center in the league, and I think because of that, you know, round 2 picks are super valuable. And, you know, you can look back at a guy like Draymond Green as another example of, hey, you can get really good players who contribute to winning basketball and even sometimes championship basketball in the second round. Chris Middleton's another great example of that. And of course, Nikola Jokic, I mean, he's the obvious, like, hey, look at this guy, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. But the other con kind of with spreading out the draft like this is second round analysis is historically kind of lazy. Now, part of that is what I touched on earlier, where there's less time to analyze. 2-minute in between selections in the second round, that's just not good enough. But historically too, like, part of the issue is analysts don't get as deep into their bags as they should when it comes to analyzing draft prospects. There's a lot of times where I feel like the analysis on TV is rather lackluster, and I feel like they should have more information on some of these players, even if there's not a ton of time to share it. I mean, there's just flat out times where you can tell a guy doesn't really know that much about a second round prospect. I think Jay Billis is, you know, peak quote is, well, his arms go on for days. That's typically what he says about any 6'7" wing that he didn't watch a ton in college. Obviously, JBL is very tuned into college basketball, but sometimes even too with, some of the international prospects, we've seen issues with guys being able to analyze their games and break down what they're good and bad at. There's not enough emphasis on strengths, weaknesses, developmental points. I think that just in general, the second round analysis is not that great. It hasn't been that great for a long time. Part of that is the time, but part of that is also just the effort some of these analysts put in, to be honest with you. Because remember, at the end of the day, it is a job for them. They're not like me, where I'm just sitting here doing this because I love it. They make a ton of money. And sometimes when you're working a long day, you don't want to go home and, dive into second round draft prospects. For me, I do because I love it. And I'm not saying that all of them don't. There's a good number of them that do. But remember, Kendrick Perkins was on the set for an NBA draft one year. So it really comes down to whoever ESPN's putting on the set and who's in the booth that day, which sometimes it's a little hit or miss. And then my biggest concern, honestly, my biggest con is that the second round becomes a sell job. And not by GMs, but by TV stations. And what I really mean by that is, I can see it now. The commercials going into the second day of the NBA draft are going to say, it's going to be all about Nikola Jokic. It's going to be exactly what I already did to you guys, to be honest, where I brought up all of these good second round picks, where you're going to almost have to sell fans on, hey, this is important because Nikola Jokic got drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. You're not going to find Nikola Jokic again in the second round. It's just very, very unlikely. Doesn't mean that it's not important. I'm a big believer in the second round. I think that anytime you have a draft pick, you should treat it like gold because it's really valuable. The teams that draft poorly end up hurting. The teams that draft well, no matter what pick it is, end up succeeding and thriving. And honestly, the analysis, all the stuff that goes into that is super important, but you can't sit there and lie to your viewers and say, well, we're going to find another all-star here. We know that this guy's going to be if people knew that, he would have been a top 5 pick. That's just the reality. You don't know anything going into the NBA draft. Even me, who spends hundreds and thousands of hours watching players for every single draft cycle, I don't know everything. And I can't guarantee a second rounder is going to be a star. And I think an example here this year of 2023, Trayce Jackson-Davis was in the top 15 on my board, I believe. I think he might have been 16th or 17th. He was very, very high on my board. I had basically a lottery grade or a near lottery grade on him. And he went in the second round. He was a guy, if I was on the set, I would be saying, oh my gosh, someone has to grab Trayce Jackson-Davis. But I wouldn't be sitting there telling you before the second round starts that Trayce Jackson-Davis is going to make 4 All-Star games. And I'm worried that there's going to be added buzz. And I think that the TV stations specifically are going to try and sell the event and say, hey, it's really important you guys watch this. And while I agree with that notion, they might have the wrong reasons as to why, and they might obviously be looking at it through a financial perspective instead of, hey, we love basketball and there's a lot of good players still left. It's going to be, hey, look, this potential star could go, or this, that, or the other thing, right? There's going to be kind of this fake buzz around it that sometimes just isn't accurate or fair to the viewers, honestly. So when it comes down to my overall take, I have kind of a few opinions here that I do want to touch on. First of all, I think that it is a good idea. I would actually be in favor of a 2-day draft. Initially, when the news first broke, I was a little skeptical. I was kind of like, oh boy, this is going to be a little weird. I like the way that it currently sits. Obviously, it's good old reliable. I love the draft the way it currently works. I have a really good workflow with it, obviously. But I'm also not mad about the idea of having an extra day of content for the NBA draft. Thinking about, hey, I'm going to make videos on this, that, or the other thing if there is a 2-day event. And I think because of that, it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's partially something I'm excited for. It's not just about making videos on it. I just love talking about the NBA. And if you give me one extra day to talk about it, one extra day to live stream, one extra day to have fun with you guys, I'm all on board with that. And that's really, at the end of the day, the thing I care the most about is give us more time to talk about the NBA. That's what I care about. That's what I love. Heck, add a third round. I don't even care. It'll be fun to get 150 deep in every single draft. I basically already do. So, it's one of those things that if you love basketball enough, you're going to be on board with it. and giving us an extra day to talk about NBA draft prospects. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not opposed to that in any sense of the word. I love talking about the NBA draft. I hope you guys did enjoy this video as well. It was a lot of fun to talk about. Never really recorded a video like this, so I do hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to go check out some of the other videos on the channel. Again, we got trade guides, we've got offensive breakdowns, we've got everything you could think of and more. A 2K series is on the channel. Episode 3 is probably coming out sometime soon, I would imagine. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Thanks again so much for watching. Again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more. Go follow us on those socials, especially join that Discord, and we'll catch you guys in the very next Utility Sports video.